couple weeks, and here we are. Every week, Monday night, cover 2. Let's go.
Bora Bora. Hey, dog. I wish, I'm going to tell you this, man. I wish that I could roll like you. Like, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to be able to go to Bora Bora, sit back with the pina coladas in the hand, being a player from the Himalayas, but it's glad to have you back, and it's glad to be back myself, man. Work has been working, man. Life has been life, and we've been sitting here just going through the best we can. But we're glad to be here, trudging forward. Really, to be honest, just trying our best to get ready for the draft. That's kind of like the big day for me, as well as the 49ers and the faithful. But as we move forward, man, let's just get into a couple of topics. Me and you, this show is we're planting seeds right now, right? Like, this show is going to it's going to have proof of concept down the road when games are happening, when good stuff is happening on Sundays, and this show is really going to take off. But we got to lay the groundwork now. We can't just grift and just start a show out of nowhere. So this is what this show is. We're basically doing a recap and react of any of the hot points that have gone on during the previous weeks, some things that are bubbling as far as narratives, things that are coming up on the draft, and that's what we're basically here to do. One thing that we're here also to do is just to kind of look at a 10,000-foot view of where the team is going. So future focus or quick fix. The context of this topic is, are the 49ers building for the future or just filling roster holes for now? Their recent moves, veteran signings, short-term deals could suggest a patchwork strategy rather than a long-term vision. Is it about sustaining a window or just surviving one? And simply put, Jesse, are the Niners pushing forward to keep hope alive, right? Are the Niners just patching holes? Are we trying to push for the future? We heard comments over the owners' meetings. What say you?
I think they're trying to do a little bit of both, and this isn't a cop-out, but Coach, they've talked about every single time that you hear them, it's we need to sustain success. Kyle Shanahan himself said that they have never gone fully all in. He said that this offseason at their end of season post press conference, whatever. I almost said postseason, but they didn't make the postseason. Their end of season press conference.
Right.
And he said that. He said, we've never really truly gone all in. And that has been the mantra of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch is, hey, we want to build the most competitive team possible, but we also got to keep an eye out for the future. This year, the way that they've stripped things down is really setting themselves up for the future, but they are going to try their best to compete this year as well at the same time. And the only way that you can do that is they're going to have to nail the draft, and those rookie players are going to have to produce. They're going to have to produce, and they're going to have to produce at a high level. I think right now they are prioritizing the future over this year, but I don't necessarily look at the 49ers like, oh, they're waving the white flag. They don't think they can be competitive at all this year. I think that they just are prioritizing 2026 and beyond, which is what I've been calling for 2 years. So I'm certainly not going to drill them for it now. I'm happy with what they're doing for the most part. And even when you look at the contracts that they signed, most of the money outside of Kyle Juszczyk, somehow this guy keeps making it above the line. But outside of him, most of the money that they gave to the free agents that they brought in were 1-year deals, essentially. They have outs on almost all those contracts and no dead money. So they are clearly prioritizing the future. I don't look at this as a quick fix. Hey, let's just be competitive this year. Screw the future. I really, truly think that they are prioritizing 26, 27, and beyond. And I think this draft is going to be a big part of that. Are they successful at it? I don't know. But they're going to have to nail this draft in order to see the fruits of their fruition.
They're saying all of the right things. We get on them when we hear commentary that doesn't make sense. But as of late, everything that the Niners have been doing is exactly what they can do, and in my opinion, exactly what they should do. We can talk about some of the mass exodus of players that went off, and the conversations of Dre Greenlaw, that money, that back and forth situation. The facts are is that Dre Greenlaw knew. I think that the writing was on the wall when they started talking to Dre Greenlaw about proving it. But previously, before he got hurt, the hottest name on getting their extension was Dre Greenlaw. And I think that saga has run its course. You know, you don't get to ride every narrative into the sunset. But some of the biggest moves that I've seen that lead me more towards the future and focusing is commentary from Jed in the owners' meetings where he mentioned more than once about the full slate of the 11 picks, right? He even said, look, I don't want to lose, but if you're going to lose very bad, so we can at least be in the striking distance of in a position of the draft that we're most customarily not there. So I like where we're going, off season wise. I got to be honest. I know that we're going to give content. I get it. And we're going to come with every narrative possible. And in a sense, that's what we're here for. But there is a sense of us where I do want us to go away. We need that. The team needs that. They need to go away. They need to focus on their 11 picks. They need to be happy at the fact that they're right outside the top 10. Understand that they're here to fill holes, even with, the contract extension looming for Brock Purdy. Again, I'll reference Jed with moving on the future focus side rather than the quick fix. He just mentioned hey, the roster that we've had thus far isn't necessarily conducive to paying a guy that you believe in, right? Now, we can get into some other stuff that he said that completely threw me off, right? And some things that you actually pointed out to me in the very beginning of the onset of that interview with Jed during the owners' meetings, but he was saying all of the right things. Everything else will be nitpicking. You hear you see what the Niners are doing in free agency. I love that we are not really, it was a weak free agency draft, in my opinion. I mean, free agency market, in my opinion. And we're not heavy players in it. Like you referenced before, 1-year deals. That's something that I like to see. There's nobody here that's here for a long time. We're trying to purge some guys and elevate some youth. So I really do love the future focus side of it rather than the quick fix. And to be honest, we would know quick fix when we've seen it because we've been seeing us quick fix and patch a lot of things over the past 2 to 3 years. What do you think?
Well, first, I don't agree that he said all the right things or even how he said it. I think, when I walked away from those owner meetings and watching everything, I actually thought that Kyle came off very, very well. I felt like he walked away the winner. I was like, man, this is the best that Kyle's represented himself. A lot of people talk about the way he looked or whatever. He always looks like he's mad or he looks like he's aged a ton or whatever. I don't care about any of that.
Whatever.
The way he answered the questions and how open he was to them, I loved it. I don't think he could have presented himself really any better for the most part. Jed, I thought, seemed irritated, agitated, whatever you want to use, but he seemed like he didn't want to be there. And then every chance he got, he made sure that everybody knows the reason that we're not competing this year and the reason we're doing this and the reason we're resetting is we got to pay our quarterback. And this is what happens when you pay your quarterback. And you want to Dre Greenlaw, tough luck, had to pay a quarterback. Everything went back to that. I was like, man, you are putting unnecessary pressure on Brock. And then to top it off, is he top 10? Yeah, well, he's top 10 with Kyle and everything we've given him. It's like, dude, well, way to be fully behind your quarterback in an open forum when just 1 year ago, you're the reason that this is happening. 1 year ago, oh, we can't wait to pay Brock Purdy. We found our franchise guy and he really saved us and we couldn't be happier. And he's not going to ask for anything that we haven't seen in the past. But this year, completely different look out of Jed York. I didn't like anything that he came up with. But as far as quick fix or future focus, to me, this is a clear future focus. It's the right thing to do. And I like the direction of the 49ers. You have to take a back step. You have to live through a little bit of pain. But also, one thing that you and I have talked about, and you've brought it up more so on air, but we've talked about a lot of this behind the scenes, is Jed York can't give excuses to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. And when he said, we have the best coach and GM combination in the league, I heard that as, yeah, we're taking away some of the quote unquote talent You guys are supposed to be the best. Go perform. That's the way that I heard that.
All right, so I'll let you cook. Great meal. Give my compliments to the chef. So, like, all right, so I hear you, but I gotta shoot Jed some bail, Jess. What I mean when I say he said all of the right things is, what do you expect him to say? He's paid out the nose. All right. We have led the league in as far as actual real dollars in cash paid in salaries to the team. And especially when you look at what the team gave out as far as performance in a record at 6-11 and the offseason that they had, the only person that did exactly what they were supposed to do in the offseason as far as net was Jed. Jed paid everybody. He sat back and he stayed out of the way, which is what we want all owners to do. Let's be honest, okay? We want them to kind of swoop in and take over when, organizationally things are askew. But however, when the ball is thrown out, when the practices are happening, when the football is played, when the draft picks are done, owner, please just smile and nod. Get out of the way. Be rich, okay? That's the price of being an owner. You don't get to have fun with us. And Jed has done that very well. He has not been in the way. All right. And I think that Jed is doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Jed has surprised me over this offseason. I've got to be honest. They swooped down and actually taken the reins over. He actually handled his business, right? Paid the guys when they were supposed to be paid. Didn't cry, didn't shudder about it. Guys gaslit, wanted extra money in the middle of their deals. Jed still got it done. All right. Sat back and watched this team come out and perform at 6-11. Now he's coming in to take over the reins. And honestly, I guess my biggest thing to you, Jesse, is what do you expect him to say? Right? He's gonna come in and say, yeah, we gotta pay Brock. We gotta make all right. So you know how like the Key and Pill, like how like I don't know whoever the guy's name, he's like the interpreter for the president. Like, I'll be the interpreter for Jed. They screwed the pooch, man. Okay? They burned me once with Trey Lance. Then I came in. I paid them money to go get Christian McCaffrey. I paid all of these guys to keep them in the building. And then on top of it, right before they went to the Super Bowl and fell on their faces again, all right, I paid all of these guys more money. I'm swooping in. This isn't my only bag. This isn't my only line of income, baby. So you guys going to have to take a back seat while I go be a soccer owner. All right? I've done my job here. And now you guys are going to have to kill what you eat. You're going to have to sink or swim. I've given you enough for that to be a fair proposition to you, right? So when Jed says like, yo, we got 11 picks and I want us to pick all 11. I want us to use the entire draft, right? Or, hey, we can't pay these guys. We've been afforded to pay guys that have surrounded around Brock. But once you get a guy that you believe in, right? In a way, look at it this way. If I'm Jed, right, I'm never going to have a conversation with my head coach that, man, you know what? You're the one who really screwed up this quarterback shit. And to be honest, the guy you got is you lucked up on him. So you better make it work. No, it's in Jed's greatest position, right, to play a little dumb, right? And to say, you know what, Kyle, I'm glad you got your guy because you're the expert, right? All right. So, okay, good. So no more of this. Got to go find a guy. No more of this. We need to find somebody to make us a winner. And also when we pay him, you got to understand that all of these other guys who I paid, we shouldn't need those guys, right? In a way, you almost have to play into what Kyle has offered you. And I think that Jed has all of this rope that Kyle has been giving him over years. And he's finally using it. And he's saying, no, you go be the coach now. He's your guy. And no, you can't say I'm cheap. There's no way the last two people in the organization that could go to Jed and say, man, you're not willing to spend any money is Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. I think that he's right where he's supposed to be.
No, for the most part, like I said, I like what he's doing, but the way he came off in that meeting, first of all, like I said, he seemed irritated, agitated, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to end every single conversation point with, oh, and we got to pay our quarterback. Oh, and we got to pay Brock Purdy. Oh, mm-hmm. And Brock, because you're taking the onus off of Kyle Shanahan and or John Lynch and putting it on Brock. The best answer he had was when he was asked about the team's life cycle, or he had gone into a conversation about the life cycle of the team. And he said, John and Kyle are the best GM and head coach combo in the league, and said that they still have a lot of talent. He talked about all the Pro Bowlers they still had. I loved all of that because that basically said, hey, I've got the best, right? I have this genius and I have this great GM, right? And I still have enough talent. Well, we got to find a way to win regardless. I love that. But then don't end it by saying, oh, and we have to pay our quarterback, which is exactly what he did. And he did that after every major talking point. And then not to mention the way he started off the whole conversation was, hey, you know, what's going on with cutting costs this offseason? Can you talk about that? Oh, well, don't blame me. You should blame my uncle for that. What are you talking about, dude? Your uncle's been gone forever. Why are you bringing him up every time that a money topic comes up? It happened last year at the owners' meetings. It happened this year at the owners' meetings. You find a way to throw shade at your uncle who hasn't been here for 30 years, man. Give it up. So to me, I like the strategy. I like what he's imploring and saying, hey, you guys got to figure it out. I love all of that. But then don't come in irritated sounding. Don't blame your uncle. And then don't end every single sentence with, well, and we got to pay Brock Purdy, because you're taking all of that ownership off of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and you're putting it right on Brock Purdy's shoulders. And quite frankly, Brock Purdy doesn't need to have all of that on his shoulders. It shouldn't be on his shoulders.
All right. One more again, because I feel like we got a volley going with this. But another thing that I want to highlight within this conversation, while Jed was speaking, the way that he was talking about Brock is specifically the contract conversations. I think that that's nuanced, in my opinion. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because a good organization has checks and balances, right? A good organization does not let different departments, does not let the left hand know what the right hand is doing, right? So that's a way to make sure that everybody is performing in their own swim lane. You can track productivity, right? And understand who's doing what. I think that Jed's comments about Brock's contract are literally Jed's comments to Brock and his representation. I do not think that those are conversations where in some way Jed is kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth. He ended the interview with, we're ready for Brock to continue the conversation. It should be really easy for him to sit down. And for me, the energy behind that was, we're paying you no more, no less, not one red cent over what we offered you. And when you're ready to come in here and be the quarterback and keep all of this up, because that's another thing, is like Brock is the moral guy. He's the ethics dude. Part of his superpower is his personality, right? I believe that that's what that message was. That was an overture to Brock and his camp, which said, hey, you know what we've offered you. I know that you guys are playing this little standoff right now where you're not talking because you think that we're gonna break the lines and come over and try to renegotiate. No, you would be a fool to think that the other deals are precedents that have been set for how your deal is gonna go, because things are different. I believe, and so I think some things are changing.
That's great. And I love the message if that's what's going to happen. But if they cave and pay him and give him $50+ million, which they're likely going to do, and give him a 4 or 5 year deal, which they're likely going to do, then all of that talk is nothing. You just said a bunch of things to say a bunch of things. Now, if they truly are saying, hey, we've given you an offer and we're going to stick to that, whether that's the overall money, whether that's the guaranteed, whether that's the years of the contract, great. If Brock ends up signing a deal that's a 3-year deal, or Brock ends up signing a deal that is less than $50 million per year, or Brock doesn't sign a deal at all because he's insulted, then I love what Jed's doing. I support that. But if Brock ends up signing a 5-year deal with 200 million fully guaranteed and 55 million APY, then all of what you just said means absolutely nothing because they caved and did whatever they were going to do anyways. So we'll see. When the deal comes out, I will gladly eat crow if what you're saying holds true and one of those things happen. I don't think that it will.
Awesome. Which takes us to our next topic. Okay. Jed York's comments at the owners' meetings hinted at a possible frustration over Brock Purdy's extension talks, which I alluded to. Could this deal set the tone for how the 49ers handle stars in the post-Purdy rookie contract era? Do they go all in or do they draw a line? Obviously, you just said this. You think that they're going to go all in. I think they draw a line. We just saw a 2-year deal, a $75 million extension with the Raiders for Geno Smith. I think, and I'm not here to say that that's the neighborhood of what Brock is going to get. However, you're starting to see even Josh Allen took less money, took $55 million because he understood the impact that it would take on his team. And he said it plainly, I don't need the extra 5. I'm fine. Okay. I just don't think in a real world we're able to say that Brock Purdy, hey, those Toyota commercials are going to hit a whole lot different if Brock Purdy's making $50 million a year. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Tell me what you think, bro.
Well, the question is Brock's contract a tone setter? Yeah, I think so. I think it can be if they do, in fact, set a tone with it and say, hey, we're not going to overpay anymore. Or we're not just going to cave in August of every single offseason because player X didn't like the deal. And so eventually we just folded and said, here you go. So certainly it can be a tone setter if that's what they want it to be. But if he ends up going the route that I think that they're going to go and he does sign the big deal, then it's set zero tone. I mean, all it did was fall in line with what they've always done, unless, of course, it doesn't take as long. If they do happen to get it done, the one comment that everybody loved that John Lynch said, we were unable to hear that audio. It wasn't posted anywhere. We have to trust that the reporters that were there wrote it down properly. And even then, we didn't hear step by step everything. But one thing we did hear, and it was posted everywhere, is that John Lynch said it's not too optimistic to think that a deal can get done before the offseason stuff starts. Well, here we are 2 weeks away from offseason stuff starting. So let's see if it gets done. Let's see. And if it doesn't, and it lingers into August or July or whatever, then it's the same old, same old. So yeah, they certainly can set a tone if they have a number or a year or both in mind and they stick to it and actually stick to it. It can be a major tone setter. I just have my doubts.
I think it's going to be a tone setter. Jed also alluded to being able to replenish the roster with younger, cheaper guys, right? Bringing in the draft. I think that the Niners, in a sense, they showed us I think the Niners' strength organizationally is that they know how to adapt, right? They know how to accelerate. They know how to circle the wagons. They know how to say, you know what? We've pushed. We've signed multiple guys throughout the offseason. We've had a great camp, middle of the season. Let's go get Emmanuel Sanders, right? We've pushed. We've done everything that we can. Kyle and the boys are hot right now. They need us to make a move. Let's go get Christian McCaffrey. Let's go make these moves, right? The Niners have done multiple things throughout this regime as an organization, and I want us to start realizing that these are two separate entities. The organization versus the coaching regime in the team. Mm-hmm. And as far as the organization is concerned, yes, they have to own the failures because the net of what they do comes out the same, right? However, I got to give it to the organization as far as doing exactly what they're supposed to do. I believe that Brock Purdy's contract is going to be a tone setter. I really do. I don't think there's a world where Brock Purdy gets paid $50+ million a year, okay, and the Niners put a team around him where Kyle Shanahan survives. When you pay a quarterback that type of money, you don't get rid of the quarterback. You get rid of the coach, okay? For sure, right? And I don't ever believe that there's going to be a scenario where, and this is sad to say, not even sad to say, but this is just the truth. This is the reality. I think that everybody can agree that Jed's relationship with Kyle is much stronger than his relationship with Brock. As far as assets are concerned, even though one would say that a quarterback that's supposed to be a prospect, hands down, is the better asset than the coach. But I believe that even through all of these conversations, the energy, the leverage, the power dynamic is really never going to be switched, even if Brock gets paid, which is going to make the situation it's going to exacerbate the situation even more. That's why I do believe that Brock is going to get paid adequate money. I don't believe that he's going to take home the bank, because Brock getting paid not only puts him in an echelon that I don't believe he's in, but it also puts Kyle in a trajectory that makes his relationship with Jed a lot more sterile. And I don't think that they can handle that. Jed's very fond of Kyle.
What's adequate money? Let's make sure we
no more than 40. No more than 45.
Okay, that's not going to happen. There's no way.
48?
No way.
You think you think for sure it's 50?
Yeah.
No less.
Yes. No.
All right, so hold on. All right, so check this. We have to also realize, even if it is 50, how it falls on the cap matters more than the AAV.
I agree, but I also don't think it's going to be a 3-year deal. I think news is going to break, and it's at least a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal, like every other quarterback.
Yeah, but there's still, okay, Jesse, you're being you blowing me right now, because I know, right? You're being very negative right now, because you're very.
I'm being negative. I'm just being realistic as to what they are. Like,
you are doom and gloom right now. That's all I'm saying. And
listen,
hear me.
Matter of fact about it.
Thank you. So let's go glass half full. Just walk with me, ray of sunshine. Jesus, walk with me. Okay, so hear me. If Brock does get the 5 years, there's outs, right? We can look at this deal and say this is essentially a 3-year deal. The Niners have an out after 3 years, right? Brock is able to get his money, holds his cachet with the big deal that he gets, right? However, the Niners can move on and shift off from Brock after 3 years, which is enough money, which is enough time to find your quarterback, right? If that's what you really believe. Do you think that that's realistic, or do you understand the way that you're giving this? Is that's
I'm trying to built in. That'll be built in. It always is, but it's going to be like you can move on from him, but you got to pay $30 million in dead cap to do so. It's not. You don't just get away scot-free. You never do.
Correct, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I feel as though with your perspective, you're going all or nothing. Where if he gets the money, there's really no way around it. Right? If he gets the $50 million a year, let's say he gets it, right? Is there a world where the deal, he still gets his 50, but we look at the deal and say, ultimately, it's not that bad. We got an out after 3 years, right? We don't really kick the money in until maybe year 3. So he gets one big payday plus his guaranteed money up front or a signing bonus, right? And we live to fight another day. I just want us to be nuanced, right? Because right, in my scouting experience, you don't get paid for saying what you see, right? That's not you telling a coach like, he's really fast. It's gonna be like, yeah, no shit, I can see that, right?
Yeah.
Like your job is to forecast. Your job is to tell me what you see on a macro level, right?
Right.
How
does he fit here?
That he could project forward. What is he going to be? Tell me what's he going to be in a year, right? So, yes, once the Brock Purdy contract drops, it's going to be over the moment it starts, right? We're going to know the money. We're going to talk about it. We already know how this is going to go, right? I guess my perspective is, what is life like with that? Are we still competitive, right? Is it just this doomsday scenario where Brock gets paid and it's over. There's absolutely no way the Niners can win. We can't acquire anybody. You know, we got a butter knife at corner. We got a bag of chips at weak side linebacker. Like, come on, bro. Like, all I'm saying is that
it never is. It's never like that. It's never like that. I guess what I'm saying is, yes, of course, when they sign him, you're going to have your traditional 2 years where you can still be competitive and pay other guys if that's what you choose to do, because all contracts are written that way. You're going to have your outs just like all contracts are written that way. I guess what I'm saying is when that headline comes across, there's going to be nothing in the headline that is going to go, oh, Niners got a good deal, man. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be, well, Brock Purdy signs a 4-year, $220 million deal with X million guaranteed. And it'll be like, yep, that's right in line with what every other big time quarterback over the last couple of years has gotten. It's not going to be like, oh, snap, that came across and you Baker Mayfield, that you got a deal. Like, that initial shock is going to be there. Obviously, there's details in every contract, and we're going to be nuanced about it and break it down and wait for that. But that initial boom, here it is, that is it's going to hit just like the way that Tua's hit or Love's hit or Dak's hit, where every other non-fan of the 49ers is going to go,
they got hosed.
Y'all are screwed. You got hosed. That's what
you got hosed. Right. All right. So the shock and awe of it, I get it. I honestly don't believe. I honestly don't believe that it's going to be that bad. I really don't. I think that he's going to get paid adequate money. I think he's going to get paid in the 40s. I'm saying it now. I think he's going to get paid in the 40s, and I believe that that's what the holdup is. I think that's what the standoff is. And if he doesn't sign, he will bring his happy ass to camp because he's the good guy. Brock's not holding out.
The whole holding out thing, I never believed that.
Yeah, come on. That's not.
It's like, no, he's not. And if he does, who gives a flip, dude? I don't care.
Right. I don't think.
What are they going to do? Not win the Super Bowl? Oh, my gosh.
Thank you, Jesse.
That was in the cards anyways. I could care less if Brock holds out. I could care less.
Like, my thing about Brock holding out is that I don't think Brock ever wants to put himself in a position where he's going to force the Niners to tell him what they really think of him. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that when you start playing like that, right, I think that's when the Niners are going to start responding. Like, all right, Brock, well, you forgot where you got that Toyota sponsorship from, motherfucker. Okay, you won't play games. Okay.
Well, also, like, let's be honest here. And this is, I would say this, the best way to paint this picture is a relationship setting. All right. Mm-hmm. If you met your girl when she was married and cheating on her husband, you think you might want to look out for her and make sure that doesn't happen to you.
Right.
How did they meet Brock?
They got rid of Trey Lance ass.
Exactly. And now you got Mac Jones in the building. So you think you might not want to give your girl, Kyle Shanahan, a chance to have a wandering eye, Brock? Yeah, you might want to show up to camp.
Hey, bro, I'll tell you this right now. Brock, you better show your butt up to camp, because if you really want to know how the Niners get down, hold out. Hold out. It will be Mac Jones season in here, and they will not care. Let's go ahead and give a super chat. Dave Barclay, new member for you for 20 months. Traded a truck for full custom Harley. Alive again. Dude, what'd you get? Ooh. I want to know. What'd you get? A Road King? A Street Glide? A Fat Boy? Let me know, man. Let me know about them bikes, baby. I'm a Harley guy. All right. So let's kind of get into our next topics. And this is something that I want to get into that we haven't really necessarily covered. Is Trent Williams pulling a Joe Staley? Joe Staley reportedly held off on announcing his retirement to give the 49ers leverage in finding his replacement, which was Trent Williams. Could Trent Williams be following in his footsteps by taking a similar approach this offseason? Is the team quietly preparing for his possible departure for the draft? So we all know how Joe left. Joe was kind of on his last legs, and we thought that he was going to play. He didn't really necessarily give any indication that he was going to retire. And good on Joe. I think he did the Niners a solid by letting them know he wasn't coming back, but didn't announce it. Allowed the Niners to go and put themselves in a position to basically not get leveraged and going to go get Trent Williams. and it helped them out in a big way. The fans, the faithful, we were none the wiser, and it caught us all off guard. This is a very interesting draft in that there's not a lot of tackles, but the tackles that are worth picking are very good. Okay. For me, we can go through we already know about Armand Membu. Kelvin Banks Jr. has also been reported as somebody that the Niners are definitely looking at. Our boy Lobs.
I'm glad you brought him up because the chat's bringing him up, and I would be super disappointed if they drafted him. But keep going.
Okay, we could talk about that too. Will Campbell is also a guy that's up there as far as tackle consideration. Josh Connerly out of Oregon, Josh Connerly Jr. and Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, which we already know is coming off of that patella injury, which is much more serious than we saw earlier on. And then there's also Ariante Irsay from Minnesota. Are the Niners secretly moving on from Trent? If they were, could we see that? Could we see that with a high pick in this year's draft at 11 if they go get that tackle? Because if you think about it, the Niners are not sitting a $7 million starter. They're not. Not with what they've been doing with money now. They're not. And especially on offensive line. $7 million might as well be $700 million as far as the Niners paying offensive linemen. So Colton McKivitz is starting. I want to be fair to Trent. Trent hasn't played a lot. He hasn't played consistently. And the games that he's missing are becoming more frequent and coming in trying to get his money for guaranteed money. Good on Trent for kind of sticking it to the Niners when they were asleep at the wheel. We had the most talented offensive line draft in the last 2 decades last year. You would have thought the Niners would have doubled down and tried to go ahead and get some of that talent. They did not. And Trent Williams decided to kind of flip the script in the middle of his contract, right when he ran out of guaranteed money, held out, missed all of training camp, got paid his money, came in, only played about 6 games, got hurt, missed the rest of the season. Now, the offseason situation with Trent Williams is well documented, but it does matter, right? It plays a toll. Things like that, when real life enters in, when you're in that age, when you're trying to start a family or sustain one, right? You may start asking yourself questions on, is this worth it, right? Do I have this in me? How plausible is this, being as though that it's happened before? And do you see the Niners pulling the trigger?
Yeah, I mean, this is I had 2 concerns going into this offseason. One of them was Dre Greenlaw wasn't going to be back. That unfortunately has happened. And the other one was Trent Williams is going to retire and we're not going to know about it until draft day or day 2, much like we did with the Joe Staley situation. Now, luckily for the 49ers, when it happened with Staley, they had Trent Williams right there. We didn't care. Like, oh, see you, Joe. Have a good retirement. Like, we just upgraded somehow at tackle. This is amazing. This wouldn't be an upgrade. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know that he's going to retire. I don't know that it'll make that much of a difference, especially on the overall future of the team, because I don't expect him to be here for this second run or the rebuild that we discussed with the first topic anyways. But I do have a feeling that it might be in the wings. We're going to find out soon. But let's talk about the replacements for a second.
Okay.
Membu's most likely not going to be there. I think of the top tackles, like the top 3 listed tackles, according to most boards, which is him, Buddy from LSU. What's his name? I forget.
Will Campbell. Will Campbell out of LSU.
Will Campbell. Yeah. And then Banks. He's the only pure tackle, but even he played right tackle. So I think he's the best tackle out of the 3. When I look at somebody like Banks, if they draft him, I could see a scenario where they draft Banks to be the future left tackle, but they do play him right away as well at left guard. Like, that's a real scenario because Banks could be a guard in this league. That's the nice thing about Banks, is that he's safe in the sense that, okay, even if he doesn't pan out at tackle, he's going to be a really good guard, most likely. So you're at least getting a safe starter for the next 10 years, potentially. It just may not be at tackle, and then you overdrafted a guard. That's worst case scenario with him. But I also see a scenario where he doesn't work out at tackle, or he's the fifth, sixth, seventh best tackle in this draft, and you force him to play tackle anyways, and then he doesn't get a second contract because he played potentially out of position and should have been a guard. I personally am not a fan of drafting Banks at 11. I think that would be a mistake. And if it is true that they have him as their number one tackle, which I've heard different, then I would say that's a major, I don't know, overdraft, misdraft, miscalculation, however you want to say it. I don't see what they're seeing in Banks if they truly think he's the number one tackle on the board. I think that's way off.
I agree. Look, man, Kelvin Banks. Look, I know why they like him, because his relative athletic score is through the roof, right? So one thing that we'll look at with Kelvin Banks is, I just want to share screen a little bit and kind of get into some stuff. And let me see. All right, man. So here goes his RAS score, right? His relative athletic score. And this is what the Niners like about him. Okay. So they like him because of his 10-yard split. All right. That 1-7. All right. His 3-yard cone, anything under 7 is considered elite. Right. But right here at 7-8, he's looked at as good. Right. So I think that the Niners are looking at the athletic ability of what Kelvin Banks Jr. brings, which is cool. I get all of that, but I think that he's a guard, quite frankly.
I do too.
I don't think that he's long enough. I think that bringing him in right now, I think that he would do so well at guard, it would almost be damning to pull him off of the position, because he's going to come in and in a sense, let's just say they go that route. Him playing out of position is going to, some people are going to look at that and say, oh my God, if you see what he's doing at guard, wait till he switches to tackle. That's just not the way it works. You know what I mean? Like, if you see him doing great at guard, then he's a guard. He's not a tackle. And that's what I see out of him. Some things also is that I think that they missed their window, quite frankly. Now, honestly, if Armand Mimbu, in my opinion, is can't miss. That's the guy. If you need a left tackle in this year's draft, that's it. Stick him over there for 15 years and it's over. But do you pick up Armand Mimbu at 11? Just period.
If he's there, yes. I don't think he's making it.
Yeah. I just don't. I think I agree with that as well. Do you think that Trent plays this full season, or do you believe that, he may call it a quits?
This one's tough. I mean, if I had to put everything down on it, then I would probably say he doesn't retire. But real life to me gets in the way. And I can't overlook the fact that him and his wife went through all those tough times this last season. And I know that there's a real scenario where his wife and him might be still trying to have a child. And if that's the case, his wife might need him to be around. She may not be okay with him on the road because of the PTSD of what happened last year. That's just a real life scenario that you can see. And there is 0% chance that if Trent's lady is like, honey, I need you around, I need you to be here, that he wouldn't just walk away from the game. There's zero scenario where he's gonna be like, well, I mean, who cares? We'll make it through. I'm playing another year. It's just not gonna happen. So I'm not saying that she is saying that or that's coming up, but if it did, he's not playing. He's just not. And I could see that scenario playing out, or maybe it has already played out and we just don't know about it yet. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, when life takes over, the same thing that happened to Mooney Ward, when life takes over, there's really nothing that football can do. I'll tell you this. I don't think that Trent plays full seasons anymore.
No, that's long gone.
I think that that's long gone. And in that, could you see the Niners picking up players that they believe they can pace themselves through with, right? Like, for people that don't understand this, but Jalen Moore developed inside of this program, right? That's something that kind of got swept under the rug. But Jalen Moore was not as good as he was when he left, when he first got here to when he left. He developed and got better, right? So in a sense, they lost their guy. Could they be going to go get their Jalen Moore outside of their Trent Williams, right? And if you're going to go get your Jalen Moore, you don't see that in the first round.
Well, certainly. I think, that's why I'm big on taking Anthony Belton, because I think you can get him around 100. Maybe you have to get him at 75, but I think you can get him around 100, and he is your future left tackle. And it's okay if he sits a year, because he wasn't your first round pick. Nobody's going to be pissed that he sits a year behind Trent Williams and plays spot duty in 3 games when Trent Williams doesn't play. Nobody's going to be upset with that. But if this is your pick at 11 and then he sits for a full year, that's going to be a little strange. I don't know that people are going to be big fans of that, because as much as fans say, hey, we're in it for the long term, they also want to win. They're not going to get 6 games in the season, watch the first round pick not playing, you're not winning games, and just be okay with that. Fans are finicky, and that's just the way that it works. So I do think that there's a scenario where they get their future left tackle, and it's not in round 1. I definitely see that. I also see a scenario where they look at Burford as potentially their swing tackle for right now. Let's not forget that Burford was a tackle in college.
UTSA.
About could he play right tackle instead of McKivitz? Is that a possibility? And is he playing out of position by being a guard? Because the body says he looks more like a tackle. I've always thought that. So maybe they're looking at it going, all right, we tried you at guard. It just didn't work the way that we thought it was going to. You are clearly more comfortable at tackle. You're our swing tackle. I can see that scenario.
I definitely see that. I want to touch on something, though, because, I got to get, I can't. When I get called out about offensive line chops, I got to respond. So Kenny is in the chat asking, what are the differences between Kelvin Banks Jr. and Armand Membu, and why would we be disappointed if Kelvin Banks Jr. got drafted over Armand Membu? So a couple of things that we want to do. One thing about Kelvin Banks Jr. is I think that he's being overdrafted. And what I mean by that is I think that there's a lot of Paul Bunyan stories about what he is. First of all, his numbers are all over the place. He's been looked at from 6'5" to 6'6" all the way down to 6'4". He's 6'4". You see it on the field. He's not a 6'5" player. He's 6'4". One thing that I'll tell you right now is that he struggles with foot speed and recovery situations. That's one of the biggest things that I see with Kelvin Banks Jr. as far as being a waist bender. All right, to be as athletic as he is, he really doesn't use his lats. He doesn't use his quads. He doesn't punch within a box. And those are the things that I see with him where, yeah, you can run down on guys in the SEC. And you can use your body, and you could be a lunger. You could throw your body around. But in the NFL, you got to bring technique and you have to bring power. All right, that's something that Kelvin Banks Jr. has a little bit of an issue with. He overextends, especially when he reaches, due to his waist bending. That's another big thing with Kelvin Banks Jr., leaving him vulnerable to push and pull techniques out of inside counters. This is another thing that I've seen with him. Now, with Armand Membu, he's got weaknesses as well. He is truly 6'4". Okay, he's not one of these big mountains of a man, but the thing about him is that his issues are the fact that he's aggressive. Sometimes he's over aggressive. Okay, he's late with his punch, with his timing sometimes because of the fact of how nasty he is, right? And I'm gonna tell you right now, another thing that I'm seeing with him is that he is somebody that can play inside of our scheme. Now, Kenny says, "Did you see that stuff or did you just read it?" Kenny, I do this. Kenny, listen, I don't even know these guys. If I thought that it's not personal, if I thought that Kelvin Banks Jr. was better than Armand Membu, I would say that. But listen, I'm not going to get on here talking about corners. I'm not going to get on here talking about quarterback. You know, I get real skittish when we start talking about Brock Purdy because that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not a quarterback guy. You know, I know it, But I'm not going to sit here and talk as if I actually was in the room. Like, no. But putting your hand in that dirt, this is what I do, bro. Come on, man. Like, the trenches is where it starts, ends with me. So let's move into our next topic. Jess, we're kind of moving really good with this. Let's go here. Which skill group needs the most work? As the draft approaches, which offensive skill group on the 49ers needs the biggest revamp? Wide receiver depth, running back rotation, tight ends behind Kittle, or just another unit? Which position group could benefit most from a day one or a day two pick? So obviously, we already know which groups need the most TLC. But I want to challenge you, Jesse. You can't name D-line.
Well, you said skill group, so that's got to be receivers, tight end, running back, DBs.
Big skill, linebackers.
Yeah.
Everybody who doesn't put their hand in the dirt.
Yeah. I mean, running back is certainly an area of need. And I really think the 49ers might take a running back in one of their top 100 picks. And I don't know how people are going to think about it, but that wouldn't shock me at all. But I think the most pressing need would be corner. Because you have two guys for sure. The depth, I believe, is pretty weak. There's no for sure third guy. And we all knew that Mooney was gone. And so when he left, it's really, really interesting how the offseason is talked about. A lot of the conversation has gone towards Greenlaw leaving and potentially Huff and cutting some of the guys that they cut. Nobody talks about Mooney Ward because we did all expect it. It doesn't now make it less of a loss. That is a massive loss, They have a glaring weakness at outside corner now. And at the very least, when you go to 3 corner sets, which is most of your snaps at this point, and you bring in that nickel corner, they need a guy, or it's going to be mouse in the house and they're getting picked on all day long. So I think that they're going to have to draft a corner relatively early in this draft, and that corner is going to have to contribute. They didn't bring in anybody that is an actual starting corner.
No world beaters.
Maybe they look at Luter and say, hey, that's our guy, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And maybe that's the case and they're right. But until I see that, I've got to say that corner is the weakness. When I look at linebacker, for example, listen, Winters may not be Greenlaw, but I think Winters is more than serviceable. I do. I don't know what Darrell Luter Jr. is. Can he even play in this league? Maybe.
That's a good point.
I'm not quite sure. So
you believe that D Winters has had more time on task than Darrell Luter Jr.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I agree with that. But for me, I'm circling the block, man. I know we talked about weak side linebacker, Jahad Campbell. We've already been there. We need to get a safety. We need a free safety, a true ball hawk free safety. Now, I understand that what we do defensively is we're interchangeable. So we technically don't have a free safety, right? These guys both have the same responsibilities based off the strength. But when is the last time we've had a true free safety outside of when Jaquiski Tart left? We really haven't had anybody outside of when we had Tart and Jimmy Ward. I mean, Tashawn Gibson, I love you, man. You know, I love the service, but that was a patch. That necessarily wasn't a fix. Malik Mustafa, that's one. All right. But outside of that, with Huff going out of here, we really do not have a center fielder at safety. And I believe that frees everybody up. It makes our corners be able to play true to their third, all right, of the field. We're always not being. One thing about not having a free safety too is that what happens is that teams who want to just kind of take us out the frame of the game start taking the top off of our defense, right? And I'll tell you, there's a lot of good safety depth in this year's draft, which honestly, safety is one of those, I don't know how to explain it. It's one of those kind of weird position groups because they're DBs, but they don't necessarily get that much love. You think of safeties and you think of like, all right, they're interchangeable based off defense, right? So one man's strong safety that can be another man's dime linebacker, right? Another man's free safety can be another man's corner. It's like, well, we don't run this defense, and what you play at safety isn't necessarily germane to what we do. But this year's draft, I think that we've kind of hit a perfect storm with having multiple guys that could play free for us. Would you be upset with the Niners going safety in the second round if they went and got a Malachi Storks, right? Or if they went and got a Nick Imawami from South Carolina? What would you think? I mean, my guy, I've been talking about him since I've been bringing this dude up for like 5 months. Andrew Makuba. Drew Makuba out of Texas is my guy. I've been talking about Drew Makuba for 4 months. All right. 4'3" guy, 6 foot, 185, super speed. Okay. This is a guy that the Niners need. What do you think about safety?
Yeah. Safety, getting a free safety. I've been mocking it every single time through. I don't know that I've done it in round 2. But if that's the best player available, I don't have an issue with taking any position group if you're getting truly, arguably the best player available. I mean, the 49ers aren't, to me, they have so many holes to fill on this roster that we can say, okay, well, you need to get 3 defensive starters out of this draft. Yeah, I guess if you want to, or defensive line starters out of this draft. Yeah, I guess if you're trying to win a Super Bowl this year and you are going to do something that nobody else has done and get real production all year long from a ton of rookies, that just doesn't ever happen. Even if you have the best draft ever, most of the time, those guys aren't going to come on until the end of the season or the next season in some cases, sometimes even 2 seasons down the road. So to me, they're retooling this thing, but building towards the future so much so that I think all positions are at play, truly at play. And if you feel like the best player, like you mentioned 2 safeties before you mentioned Makuba, those guys are most likely going to be first round guys, or maybe Emanwari falls to early the second round. If one of those guys fell to 43 and you didn't take them, I think that would be a mistake, right? Because they're just that good of prospects. So I'm totally fine with them taking anything at any of these drafts, as long as you can justify it and say, hey, I think this is the best player available. That's what's interesting about being where the 49ers are at, is they're kind of in no man's land, especially at pick 11, where there's maybe 12 guys that have true first round grades on them. Maybe that exists. But you're at pick 11, 10 of those guys potentially are gone. And I don't know that there is 12 guys. There might only be 9 guys that teams have first round grades on. So at pick 11, you could go with 10 to 15 legitimately different guys and be like, yeah, okay, I can see why they went that route, and make the argument. Hopefully you can trade back, but that's not likely to happen. Why would somebody trade up unless a quarterback's available and they just have to have them? But outside of that, I don't think that there's a player that is going to be on many people's boards that they just have to have and take your pick 11 away from you. And if that does present itself and you can move back even as far as like 10 picks, I would still feel great about it, because I think you're getting a prospect that you could have argued taking at 11. So I think all position groups are at play for them at all times.
Oh, all right. There's a couple of things. One, I love your position. I love what you said, but there's some caveats that I want to add to that. One, I don't want to get caught up drafting. Okay? I don't want to turn this into a sport where we feel so good about being the smartest guys in the room. We have gotten in really bad places trying to do that. Trying to be the smartest team in the room. We have 11 picks. Out of those 11 picks, if you want to pick 11 guys, pick them. But my thing is what you're saying as well is that, all right, I love where we are in the draft. You say it's a no man's land, but this is my strategy, how I would do it, okay? If me and you were in the war room right now of the draft, and you told me, Isaiah, look, I need to know exactly what you're doing, right? I need to know how you're going to move forward. I would say, look, we're 10 picks. We're one pick out of every top 10 pick in the draft. But this is what's going to make the draft advantageous to us. What makes the draft so dope is that it's very deep, but there's not a lot of can't miss guys as far as draft positioning is concerned, right? We've got a lot of defensive linemen, we've got a lot of D tackles, but not necessarily all of these tackles are there's not like a 1, 2, 3 and then everybody else falls. You can pretty much make an argument for why you would need or not need any of these guys coming up, right? So what we do is we pay attention to what's being ran on for the first 10 picks of every draft. We do our job to make sure that we do our due diligence, of course, like who we understand who we need. However, our main ploy is to not get behind the runs on players coming off. So if we are at pick 11 and we see a run on tackles, there's no reason to pick a tackle at 11, right? However, we do know that if there's a run on tackles, then we need to be in another position group because there's another position that needs to get picked up now. You can almost manipulate the draft that way as far as the market is concerned, with certain positions flying off the board where teams, their need and where they have a guy completely gets compromised just off the market, off of what teams need and what's going off the board. I believe that at 11, we can be the arbiters of that. We can push that. We can push that narrative where if put it this way, what's great about us is that we have a lot of positions that need to be filled, right? Is there a position right now outside of probably tight end or quarterback or maybe running back, but is there a position of need with the Niners that if we picked at 11, you would be upset if we picked up? You wouldn't be mad if we picked the tackle at 11 if he was worth it, right? You wouldn't be mad if we got a corner that was worth it at 11, right?
Nope.
In any of those positions that I'm naming right now, we can go down the line. If the player was adequate, there's no player there that you would say, why did they do that, right? So even to the point with receiver, with what's his name, the kid out of Arizona, Ted McMillan, he's even sliding to the point where guys the kid out of Texas and Notre Dame, they're going up. And even if we got that guy, that in a way would make sense, right? Moving forward. So I believe that we're not in no man's land in the draft. I think that we're in a position in the draft where if we pay attention to what's coming off the board, we could be able to get the best players in some of the best groups of the draft, right? Why go D-line if we know that D-line and tackle have been bled out? Go get Nick and Mawormi. I would not be mad at that at 11. Right? If you're going to go get
I'd
a
be
guy.
mad if it was him, but maybe not safety.
Bro, I'll tell you this, man. If there's a run on D tackle, right? I'm gonna be pissed if we go get a D tackle at 11. That does not make sense, right?
I don't think there's going to be a run at D tackle before you get there, anyways. But yes, if let's say the 3 defensive tackles were taken and they took who we all agreed was like the 4th best guy, yes, I would be pissed about that. But I would say at least take the best safety or the consensus best safety in the draft, and it's not him.
I think he is. I think Malachi Starks and Nick. That's leaning into my debate. My debate is that there are very few prospects in this draft that are far and away just the guy, right? Ashton Genty is the guy at running back. You mean to tell me that Ashton Genty is that much better than Amarian Hampton? No. I do not think so. I don't think so, right? Ted McMillan is supposed to be the best guy running that receiver. That kid ain't that much better than Matthew Golden or Luther Burden. And really, if you really want to go for archetypes, Savion Williams on the low. I like Savion Williams over Ted McMillan. And they're talking about Savion Williams going in like the 3rd or 4th round. So That's all I'm saying. You look at defensive tackle. Yeah, you could go Mason Graham, but Walter Nolan's there. Kenneth Grant is there. Derek Harmon. Talik Williams out of Ohio State. That's 5 guys I just named. All of those guys are like inches away from each other. You see, there's nobody really separating themselves. So when you say, oh, how could you have picked the number 2, blah, 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 in this year's class, I don't think that's that egregious is what I'm trying to say, right? There's not a lot of gap.
Yeah, I don't think that there's, and I also don't think that there's a big gap in, hey, this player at a different position group is rated much higher either, which I agree mostly with what you're saying. I disagree on the prospects in the order of the prospects.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if the 49ers truly were like, hey, we feel like this was the best safety and that's what we went with, okay. I mean, you can justify that. And I think the point is that when you go position group by position group, the top 9 of the top 10, we basically know for the most part what the 9 names that are coming off
of every group.
10.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just saying in general, like if we look at most consensus boards, we don't know all 10 guys that are going to be off the board before we get to 11. Mm-hmm. But I would be shocked if we don't know at least 8 names.
8
that are for sure not going to be there when the 49ers pick. And so after those names, those 8 or 9 names, is the difference between, let's say you have Walter Nolan is your best defensive tackle, is the difference between him and Jade Barron, if he's your best corner, that big at the different position group? No, it's not. So that's why you can justify everything. So for me, let me clarify. I think at pick 11 in round 1, the 49ers are in no man's land as far as getting a pure first round talent. I don't think that's going to happen, which means you really are putting yourself at risk of maybe taking a major bust because you saw one player above the other and what have you, versus if you could trade back and just let everybody else dictate what happens, and then you take one of the 10 guys you liked anyways, then you're good with that. But I think the rest of the draft, to your point, could fall in their favor starting in round 2 from the standpoint that I see a scenario where only one wide receiver could get taken in the first round. And if that's the case, when round 2 opens up, guess what's going to be a run? Wide receiver.
Wide receivers.
Well, the 49ers don't really need a wide receiver necessarily. So now you get to zig when everybody else is zagging. I just think at pick 11 specifically in round 1, there's so many guys you can make an argument for that if you're not trading back and it's not a possibility, you really could end up taking the wrong guy just because that possibility does exist.
All right, so I'm going to put you between a rock and a hard place. Mm-hmm. Best available. What's best available at 11 in your eyes? Because we're both best available guys. We're not best fit guys. I'm a best available guy. Are you a best available guy or a best fit guy?
No, I'm a best available guy as well.
Right.
I'm a best available guy.
So best available to you looks like what?
I mean, I think if somehow Membu or Will Johnson make it to you, you have to say yes.
Okay, can't miss.
You have to say yes. You've got to take one of those guys. But if both of those guys are drafted along with, all the other names that most people like, okay, let's agree here. Cam Ward's going to be gone. Not that they need a quarterback. Cam Ward's going to be gone. Abdul Carter, whether he goes 1 or 4, he's gone. Shador Sanders, most likely gone. Travis Hunter, gone. Mason
Abdul
Graham,
Carter.
I said Abdul Carter.
Ashton Genty.
Yes, gone. Membu, gone.
Gone.
Jalen Walker, gone. Will Campbell, gone. And then who's the 10th guy? Is the 10th guy
Jahad Campbell?
Okay, well let's say it's him. Whatever. Maybe he's gone too. But is it possible that Will Johnson isn't in the top 10? Yeah, but he might be the 10th guy. And then if that happens, then you're choosing between Banks, Jahad Campbell, Kyle Williams, Shamar Stewart, James Pierce, Walter
Jade Barron,
Nolan, Harmon, Grant, Jade Barron.
Right. Now let me hold on. Now let me chill out, Frisco.
And you can argue any of them is my point.
Okay. Or
I didn't even mention Mike Green.
Hold on. Or you got the best safety in the draft has not been touched. Okay. You got Nick Imamori right there. You got Malachi Starks right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what you do. Like, if you're going to go get a guy, you go best available. I'm just,
then the point is though, I named all those guys. The 4 names I didn't mention were Tet, Tyler Warren, Mike Green, and Malachi Starks. Those are also, so you legitimately, we just came up with 15 guys that you could say, that's my guy right there. And you can argue it. You can legitimately argue it. The 49ers could look at it and say, no, we didn't take, I don't know, Kenneth Grant or whoever, because that's the position of need. That was the best player on our board. And you'd be like, yeah, okay, I guess. I mean, who's to tell you that it's not?
I don't know, man. The first 10 picks are going to shape a lot of stuff out. The league has a very funny way of letting us all know that we're complete idiots. So I can't wait for them to do it again. I get it. I'm best available. You're best available. You want to mock it up real quick?
Is that for the most part, best available, coach, is, I mean, it's beauty in the eye of the beholder. This isn't that, and that's why I say they're in no man's land at 11 for the most part, is that there are 15 guys that you can make an argument for best available, and not all of them are going to be good. So the 49ers might take best available to them. You can hear them out and be like, yeah, I guess I could see why you would take that guy. And that guy might end up being a bust, to where the first 8, potentially 10 guys taken in this draft, they are clear first round talents. And then everybody else is like, it's just, what do you have a preference in? That's what it comes down to.
All right. So peep game. So look, we're not going to do this. You know how look, y'all know how we get down. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it all day, but just had to see. Here goes the draft simulator. Mm-hmm. So did the draft simulator. Cam Ward, Texans, Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, Ashton Genty to the Pats. Wow. Mason Graham, Armand Mimbu gets picked up by the Raiders. Abdul Carter gets picked up by. That's wild. Did the Niners trade up to go get Abdul Carter? If that happens. All right. Jade Barron, 8th overall.
PFF sucks. I can't stand PFF.
PFF is on meth.
Go to
NFL.com.
No. Go to
PFF is high.
Go to PFN.
PFN. Yeah, hey, don't be. Hey, man, this is a child's network, man. Don't be sending me to no crazy. Hold on.
Pro Football Network.
All right, hold on.
But even then, as crazy as that draft was, 8 of the 10 guys that we mentioned as consensus were on there.
True.
Pro Football Network.
All right, yeah. Draft simulator. Here we go.
And just
so. Oh, you just run it without the team? Let's go.
You can pick the 49ers.
No, we're not picking. We're not picking. Let's just go. Let's see what they do.
Okay. Let's see who the top 10 are.
Let's see what the top 10 are. See what they gave us. Top 10. Cam Ward. Hold on. Cam Ward, Ashton Genty, number 2. Dude, come on, man. They just playing in our faces. This is.
But either way, here we go.
Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, Mason Green.
The order of the names.
It's a mix-up, but they're all still there. Yeah.
8 of the 10 guys are almost guaranteed to be gone. 8 of the 10 are almost guaranteed to be gone. So that's it.
That's crazy.
And that's. But that is also likely. You know what I mean? Like that is likely to happen.
Why do they like this kid so much?
Who?
Kyle Williams. Yeah, I understand. It's trash. Hey,
I like Kyle Williams, so
yeah, I need to do some more homework. I've been O-lined out and trying to not get doged. So I've been wilding right now. Hey, let's get a couple of super chats out of the way real quick, man. It's always a great show with you, man. David Barclays, $2 says FXR with huge SNS motor sitting low, fast and loud. Ooh.
Always talking about his bike.
Little bit of bobber. Yeah, got a little bit of a bobber. Daza 0187, $5. Thank you. Has a journalist straight up asked Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch why they're satisfied with a mediocre offensive line, which is contrary to the most elite NFL teams. It's becoming egregious. Even with, I think that in a way they've kind of gotten away with it because when we lost to the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes gets so much credit, but we keep forgetting that the Chiefs also have a very good offensive line. But now with the Eagles, trouncing out one of the best offensive lines as far as like size and stature is concerned in NFL history, Super Bowl history, Kyle's going to have to stop. Like, I don't care that you can drive cross country on a 4-cylinder. Like, whatever. Like, you need to go ahead and get that together, Kyle. So, yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. Hawks Nest is in here. He's the Seattle Seahawks representative on the division show that I do. So he said, take Walter Nolan, please. That means you don't like Walter Nolan.
You don't want him. Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So why? What is it about Walter Nolan? Or is it as simple as you like Walter Nolan, but you're just worried your Seahawks are going to take him?
You definitely.
So the question is, because
Walter Nolan kind of has that little bit of disheveled demeanor. He looks like a Seahawk. Kind of looks like a degenerate.
Nolan.
He'd be awesome for the Seahawks.
He's going to be a Cowboy. Watch. He's going to be a Cowboy. If he's not a Niner, he'll be a Cowboy. He thinks he's overrated. Ooh, I disagree. We're going to have some conversations tomorrow, Brandon.
We're going to have a conversation, bro. I don't think he's overrated. I just think that he lacks a lot of, he's not polished. He's raw. He needs to go get his technique together. So, hey, Spider Niner, $2. Thank you. Do you guys think we need a wide receiver late?
Yeah, need a wide receiver? No. Would it be nice to also get one in this draft? Sure.
It'd be cool. Daza 0187, $2. Thanks, bro. D-line is trash, so upgrading secondary would be good. Hey, man, a good D-line makes a better secondary, though. So keep that in line. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Peyton Diaz, $199. Thank you, Coach. You still streaming with Grant? What's up, Jesse? Yes, I'm streaming with Grant. Guys, I've been all over the place. Life has been lifing, but I'm still here. I'm glad to be doing the show. And guys, the draft is going to be fire. We got some good stuff. A lot of my time, if I'm not streaming, has been getting ready for the draft. And it's going to be good, guys. So stay tuned. Too Much Sauce, $199. Thank you. Is Jake Tungus a needle mover next season? Come on, bro. We telling jokes?
A needle mover. No.
Dave Barclay, $199. Think I just emailed Jess a pic, Coach. It's bad, bro. Oh, is it bad? Let me see it, man. I gotta see it, man. He's got the FXR. That's a nice, mean barber. I can't get her no barber, dog. I want a fat boy though, the 118. You know what I'm saying? I want the fat boy is the Terminator motorcycle. For those who don't know, I love that car. I love that bike. So. Alex Grolan, $4.99. What do you guys think about Billy Bowman? Yeah, show me that too. What do you guys think about Billy Bowman Jr.? The guy is the truth, man.
I don't know anything about Billy Bowman Jr. I haven't watched him.
Billy Bowman. Oklahoma? Sounds like he's related to Willie Beeman.
Safety.
Billy Bowman, safety?
I don't know. I haven't watched him.
5'10", 195, center field. I gotta see Billy Bowman. I gotta watch a little bit more of him. That's a good call out, Alex. Jess, this is another. Why haven't you watched Bowman, bro?
I haven't watched him, bro.
So
it's a great last name.
Tell us everything you know, man. Tell us about Bora. Tell us everything. How is it to be back, man?
No. Tell us everything you know. God, I'm gonna be here for a while, Coach. Everything I know. I will say this. One thing I do know is I've been to a lot of tropical places, and Bora Bora is hands down the best. So if you are considering, oh, should I go here or there? And if you don't mind coming off an awful lot of money to go to Bora Bora, it is definitely worth it. I've been to Cabo, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Hawaii, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica. Bora Bora, hands down, is the most beautiful. The most beautiful.
Awesome, dude. You know what, Jess? I got to get to Bora Bora too, man. Got to get over there so we can have a good time, bro. Jess, as always, it's been great streaming with you, bro. Glad to have you back. Glad to be back
You
myself.
got one more, by the way. One more super.
We got another super.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. Come on, guys. Niner Gang Podcast, $5. Thank you. Keep up the fantastic work, gentlemen. Coach is Damian Woody's doppelganger. I have been called Damian Woody a lot by a lot of the kids that I coached. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I'll take it, though. Damian was nice at right tackle. Damian Woody was a guy. So I'll take it.
Damian Woody's cool, too. He'll jump into spaces with you. Like, if he sees a good space, he'll jump in and chop it up. So, respect to him.
Respect to Damian Woody, man, my doppelganger. Go check it out. That's my other big brother. Too. Oh, we got another one? Let's go.
Alex, he's just telling us on Willie Beeman.
Let's go. I see the ladies. Billy Bowman. Billy Bowman Jr. is a stud who was locking up all the wide receivers at the Senior Bowl practices. Kid is potential for real, for real. Watch him. You're welcome. Well, thank you. Thank you. Stop sending us money, Alex. We're trying to get out of here.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Guys, this is the coach, Jesse Naylor. Last Second Sports, the Coach's Huddle. Stay low and keep your feet moving, man. Welcome.